It's a spooky episode, you know. We gotta keep it a Halloween theme. All right, your segment, Adrian, Hidden Gem. Who do we got? Who's on the spooky edition of Hidden Gem?
All right, so this week, this is actually this is one of these characters. So being visual, right?
Yep.
You see the cover, and there's something about the cover that attracts you, and then you end up buying or getting into whatever the character is in that comic because of what's on the cover.
Mm-hmm.
And this is when I really got into Spider-Man. This is one of Spider-Man's, epic supervillains.
Okay.
And so this week's Hidden Gem is Hobgoblin. Not the Green Goblin.
Not Green Goblin.
Hobgoblin. Now, apparently, Hobgoblin came after the Green Goblin. So that kind of tells you. And this guy came out, in 82 or something like that? So he's been around for a while. Again, he's one of those characters that a lot of potential.
Yep.
But gets buried for one reason or another throughout the comics, throughout the years. The writers shit on him. The comics shit on him. And they just don't bubble up to the top. But he literally is the predecessor of the Green Goblin. And it's interesting. The guy started out as a fashion designer.
Okay.
He was like a shifty fashion designer. He would go around and steal other fashion designers' ideas,
okay,
and promote them out on as his own.
Yeah.
Until one of them, he was getting ready to do this show, and the person that he stole the designs from exchanged all of his designs with like some old raggedy, like those potato sacks.
Yeah.
So when he did the reveal, he was all embarrassed because all of his mannequins and all this other kind of stuff was, just a bunch of raggedy ass.
That's where
Kanye
West got the idea for his rag.
Probably. So he had a few people that he was doing this with, stealing stuff from.
Yeah.
One of his rivals, per se, imagine, so these are just fashion designers.
Yeah.
I don't want to say just fashion designers, but they weren't in the comic book world.
Right, they weren't superheroes.
They weren't superheroes or supervillains. So one of his rivals, for whatever reason, was trying to get away from Spider-Man.
Okay.
Right? And this guy jumped down into a sewer, trying to elude Spider-Man. Spider-Man's following him. So eventually he eluded him by opening this door. Open the door, turn the light on, and lo and behold, it was one of the Green Goblin's old lairs.
Okay.
Right? So all of his tech, all of his weapons, his journals, his notes, pretty much everything that you needed to be in order to be the Green Goblin. So this guy, for whatever reason, decides that I'm going to tell this fashion designer about it instead of selling the stuff himself.
Yeah.
Or donning the costume of the Green Goblin himself. He decides to tell this fashion designer, "Hey, I got all this stuff. Won't you come take a look at it?" He takes a look at it. He collects it, makes the guy. It's almost like, I'm going to shoot you, but I'm going to let you dig your grave first, and then I'm going to shoot you, right? So you just fall into it. Made the guy pack all the stuff up into this van. They move all the stuff to his new location. And then when the guy was driving off, he's like, "Yeah, I'm not going to tell anybody." He's like, "Yeah, I know." And then he blows him up, right? So he takes all of this Green Goblin tech. And as a fashion designer, right, he changes it.
Okay.
Makes it look his own. Change the colors, makes a little flair. And then just like, and we talked about this before, it's like, how is it that there's somebody in every family, every something, there's this tech wizard, right? He goes
only
from,
in comics.
spinning needle and thread to
Yep.
now he starts modifying and improving the Green Goblin's stuff, right? But no real power sets himself, but by having the Green Goblin's gear, he's got all the bombs, he's got the flying bat or whatever he's got. So basically, the whole power set, don't need to go into all of that. But he inherits all this stuff and he improves upon it, and that's this guy. And there's different variations of them throughout the years.
Yeah. The
Different
one you're
people play
telling
it.
us about, is that Roderick Kingsley?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Because, yeah, there's like at least 3 or 4 that wear it.
Right. And that's the one that because I remember reading that episode where the guy finds the lair.
Yeah.
And this Kingsley character goes and starts modifying, and that's when he breaks out to it. All these other guys, I mean, there's different flavors and psychoses involved in all this stuff. But I think I always thought he was a very formidable opponent for Spider-Man, at least in his early years. Spider-Man's early years. I'm really not cool with. I mean, you got this fashion designer, and all of a sudden now he's this psychotic dude flying around on a mechanical bat or something.
He's
like
a billionaire too. Yeah.
Of course he is. Yeah. Of course he is. But but he was, for me at that age, I was probably 15, 16 when I first saw him.
Okay.
And or earlier, and I was just enamored by the colors, of the Hobgoblin fighting Spider-Man, and it just that whole dynamic. And I like the tech too. Anything that had tech involved in it.
Yeah, you're a big Iron Man.
Yeah, exactly.
Guy,
So I also like that component too. But Hobgoblin.
Yeah. So I didn't know much about Hobgoblin. Obviously now I do, thanks to the Hidden Gem. And if you like this, guys, check out the Hidden Gem playlist, because Adrian does this every week, and phenomenal deep dive on these characters. But this, I think about live action, right? I think how do you not think about live action when you talk about characters, right? Because it's like you see them on paper, and sometimes one of the coolest things to see is them come to life on screen when done right. And sometimes one of the most disappointing things, right? We've not really seen Hobgoblin on screen yet. We've seen Green Goblin a few times, right?
Yep.
I loved, what's his name? William Dafoe's portrayal of Green Goblin. I think he did great in the original Spider-Man movie.
Yep.
And that one, it was very tech-based. It wasn't. It was a suit, a mask. He didn't actually have this goblin look. But then in No Way Home, he comes back, and one thing about the MCU, I think we've seen more true to comic depictions in the MCU, like the costume. We always talk about the X-Men and the Fox movies. Everything was so dark and black. It's like everyone was wearing like Batman suit, and just different variations.
All
of
this stealth stuff.
Yeah, which I get at the time. It was the first time you see him on screen, but the MCU's been bold with some of their choices. I mean, we talk about the Wolverine suit that we saw in the behind the scenes photos, the bright yellow and blue. So in No Way Home, we see William Dafoe portray a more true to comic Goblin. Like he has the kind of rags that you were talking about, Kanye West Yeezus clothes on, and he even has like a purple and green kind of mix, right? So I think he looked really cool there. But in the original Spider-Man trilogy, if you remember the third movie, which was pretty bad, it was very uneven. Venom was in it. It was a disaster. But Harry, Norman's son, finds the lair. Like when you're describing that scene, I think about Harry, and it's almost like that was the closest we've seen to a Hobgoblin on screen,
right?
Because it wasn't Norman, it wasn't Green Goblin. He found it. He tweaked some of his dad's stuff. Now his suit was still very techish. It wasn't like these newer age, but that's probably the closest, right? But I would like to see a Hobgoblin on screen. I think that'd be great, especially with the Tom Holland Spider-Man.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And I would even go as far as saying I wouldn't want to see him, because you see some of this stuff, especially when it comes to the tech. It's like, how the hell did they get this stuff? This stuff costs hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars.
Right.
Yeah, they go and they rob things, they steal stuff, and they can get money like that. But you also got to maintain that stuff. I would like to see a Hobgoblin type villain, right? With moderate tech.
Okay.
But with more psychosis and will and physical performance. Yeah. The tech aids him.
Right.
Not, he is all teched out.
Yep.
And
like Norman in No Way Home.
Right.
He didn't have all it because he came from another universe. He didn't have all the tech. He had some.
Right.
And it was more of him being like the two, he'd switch. Like he'd be Norman and then all of a sudden he's Goblin.
Right.
Like that. That'd be great.
Yeah. Because it's like, okay, you got Iron Man, and then you got Batman with his utility belt. I mean, stop putting so much tech in it to
Yeah.
where it just, because that's not flashy anymore.
Right.
You know, we want to see like a Hobgoblin. We want to see a villain be the villain. Like the Joker.
Yeah.
He is like off the rail psychosis.
Right.
What does he have most of the time? A gun,
Right.
some acid,
Yep.
you know, something simple.
Dynamite.
And then he'll just bludgeon you to death. You
Yes.
know? That kind
Well, it
of
reminds me of Dark Knight. He's like, I'm a simple guy, just like, you know, dynamite. Like, it's
Exactly.
cheap, you know. But that to your point, that's who he is.
Yeah.
But, dude, great pick. Hobgoblin.
Cool.
Love
Cool.
it. Guys, check out the rest of the Hidden Gem playlist. Actually, fun fact. So, speaking of Tom Holland, speaking of Hobgoblin, there was, you know, you mentioned that there's several individuals who portrayed Hobgoblin. The first one was a guy, Ned Leeds. So I looked this up. Now, what's Peter Parker's best friend's name in the Tom Holland Spider-Man movies?
Yep. I heard about this too.
Yeah, Ned Leeds, right?
Yep.
Now, we saw in No Way Home, Ned actually has some magic powers, right? Because he does the whole Doctor Strange thing with the ring and shit. And it's almost like, is that a little tease of something to come? You know, because you got the perfect storyline. Ned could get tied. Now, with the end of No Way Home, he no longer knows who Peter Parker is, so maybe this is off the table. But you could have a perfect story where Ned almost gets jealous of Peter because maybe he's spending too much time being Spider-Man. Maybe he don't really need Ned to be the guy in the chair anymore.
Right.
And now Ned gets a little jealous. It's almost like the whole Gravik thing, right? You said I was to be your guy in the chair.
Right.
Now I'm not. And of course, the most natural thing to do is then try to kill your best friend, right?
Of course.
So I mean, perfect setup. There you have it. We're writing stories for you here on MarvelComics.
That's it.
All right. Well, great segment, Adrian. Next up, we have what's becoming, we'll call us a fan favorite maybe. Sometimes they agree with us. Sometimes they don't.
Right.
Last week, they're like, I agree with almost everything this guy says. And another guy says, this man is whack. And I just go, yes, all of the above. Sure.
Right. All
right. So, agree to disagree. This is where I rapid fire, Adrian, 10 of my opinions at you.
Okay.
And you simply tell me if you agree or disagree.
Let's go.
All right. Number one,